Caregivers, are you overwhelmed by caring for someone who is vulnerable? An organization called the Heart of the Caregiver may be able to offer some help. I have Mary Tutterow as my guest, and we were in a Zoom conference at one point, and this is how we met. And I understand her to be a caregiver, and she has this organization. And I wanted her to come on the show, just never was able to figure out how to fit it in because of COVID. But now restrictions are easing. So, Mary, it's wonderful to have you on the program.
Happy to be here.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about your organization, the Heart of the Caregiver, and the reason why it was launched.
Well, my husband and I have a daughter, Mary Addison, who's now 29 years old, and she's mentally and physically challenged. But probably the hardest part of her life is that she has seizures every day. It's like waiting for bombs to go off for 29 years. And during caring for her and then caring for my mother-in-law through cancer and dementia, Koko, I just lost myself. I couldn't find myself. I had to give up my career. Our finances were a mess. Our marriage was a mess. Just life was a mess. And I just needed help. And I started seeing all the other people in therapy and doctor's rooms and at the hospital, and knew I wasn't the only one that was struggling with this. And so when I kind of had gotten to a place in caregiving where I could breathe, I started asking God for help, and I started getting terrific answers. And then I thought I needed to share them. And that's how this whole thing started. And now we're up to 200 groups around the world, online and live, connecting caregivers and discussing things that are not just a support group. You need to get out of the hole.
Totally amazing. And so this organization was birthed out of your experience as being a caregiver.
Yeah.
And that's remarkable in itself, because when you're a caregiver, you don't really have time to do anything else but caregive. But you are actually spearheading this organization in the midst of caregiving, which is, I don't think people understand how incredible that is.
Well, think of it this way. I've had 29 years. So I've been at this for a long time, and we've been teaching these classes for about 15 years now. And it's the purpose. I really believe this is why it all happened to our family, because we've been able to help so many other people really get peace and relief, and not let caring for someone you love destroy everything else.
Talk to us about what you went through during the beginning COVID stage, the beginning COVID months, because that had to in itself be very, very stressful. And then other people going through it as well, caregiving.
Oh my gosh. And it was so hard because we couldn't, meet at our church groups or our senior center groups or any of those things. And it really forced us to take the jump to do everything online. And, but I'll tell you, it was the groups that saved my life. I mean, it was so wonderful to have all these other people to connect to. And I looked forward to our weekly meetings. And of course, I was running a lot of meetings. So I was meeting with lots of different groups several times. That it kept me alive even while I was sick with COVID. So it connecting with other people who get it, who understand that you feel the way you do, because most people who've never been through caregiving don't get it. They really don't understand how deeply it affects your life and your other relationships. And it was so wonderful to have these groups save me.
Yes. So talk to us a little bit about the groups that you have and how they can help caregivers.
Well, first of all, our groups are not about the disease or disability, but we have people who are caring for a spouse with cancer, a child with disabilities, aging parents. They're all in the same group, because we're not talking about the disease or disability. We're talking about you and your heart as the caregiver, and why it's broken, and why you're exhausted, and why you're overwhelmed. And it applies to anybody who's taking care of anybody. So these groups are very, very diverse, and they can be men and women, young and old. And sharing is very, very rich. But what ends up happening first, I think, is the most important thing, is you get in a group like this and you realize you're not alone. Second of all, these aren't support groups. There's a curriculum, and they're the workbooks, and then there's videos and all kinds of stuff like that. because you're working your way out of the hole. You don't just keep going round and round with everybody saying my problem's worse than yours. This is step by step getting out of that hole. And then what happens is these caregivers come so far as to say, I want to start leading my own groups. So they start helping other people out of the hole. And it's just wonderful to watch and really see people's lives change.
How does someone access your services?
You go to theheartofthecaregiver.com. And there's all kinds of videos you can watch and free downloads, and you can sign up for the newsletter. And once you're connected, you can get in on our Facebook groups. And, there's just a whole lot of things that all start with theheartofthecaregiver.com. And
let me ask you, I am a caregiver, but in the sense that I relieve a caregiver. So I'm kind of like a respite caregiver. So does that qualify also? Because when you think about caregivers, you're thinking about the person who is in the home, and they are the ones that have the biggest burden. So is it just?
They certainly are. They really are, and we live for people like you who just come in and help. Thank you very much. But we're starting. All these groups are starting for people who are professional caregivers. Whether it's like a direct care service worker or a nurse or a doctor, or a therapist, those people get burnt out too, or respite care workers. And we've been working with churches to help train people and senior centers to train people how to have a heart to go in and help other people, other caregivers. So we are moving in concentric circles from just the core family caregiver out into all different kinds of people who help care for other people.
Okay, that clears that up. And so talk to us about this upcoming peace retreat that you have planned for caregivers.
Oh, these are my favorite things. We do peace retreats usually about once a month. They slowed down a little during COVID, but it's just 2 hours on a Saturday night or a Sunday evening. And you connect with other caregivers literally from around the world. Sometimes we have people from Kenya and Sweden and England. I don't know what time they're up doing these retreats with us. But it's just 2 hours really doing an intensive of the Peaceful Caregiver workbook. But it's doing a very intensive approach to what is stealing your peace. Identifying that, because it's not just the person you're caring for. You got a lot of other problems that are in there, but we tend to blame the people that we care for with a lot of the problems. And then once you've identified what it is that's on your last nerve, how do you quiet it? And how do you tell it to be quiet? I want to hear a different answer. I want to have a new thought. Instead of this thing driving me insane, I'm going to take a deep breath and count to 10 and listen for a new idea about my situation. And it works. It really works. So you get practical steps on how to practice peace.
I can't wait for the peace retreat. But you said it's pretty much ongoing. But the next peace retreat, when is that?
It's Saturday, June 5th from 9 to 11 in the morning. And these are free, by the way. There's nothing to buy or anything like that. Just show up. You got to sign up, which you'll see once you get my newsletter. And then on my Facebook pages, you can sign up too, if you haven't gotten the newsletter yet. But June 5th from 9 to 11 in the morning, and then June 6th, Sunday evening from 7 to 9.
Again, it's theheartofthecaregiver.com. Mary Tutterow, thank you so much. And before we go, is there anything else you'd like to add for caregivers?
Don't be afraid to connect with other people, because you're not alone, even though you feel very alone. And it is such a relief to be able to say things about how bad it hurts and that you've been hiding, and other people go, oh my gosh, me too. That alone helps so much.
Yeah. All right. So again, you have an open door invitation to come on the show anytime. Thank you so much.
You're terrific. Thank you.